Hey everybody, how's it going? It's another day. It's a Monday. It's a shit day. It's a Monday. It's always a Monday. So yeah, we got a couple of things I want to talk about before we play a little bit of Fall Guys to cap off tonight. So I mean, I don't know why I'm talking. It's not like anything actually happened. There's nothing really that major that's gone on in a very, very, very sudden announcement. No, nothing. Nothing's happened. But I guess there's one thing that's happened today that, kind of warrants a little bit of attention. Just maybe one little thing. Oh, yeah, $7.5 billion deal. Yeah, tiny things, very tiny things. So, yeah, Xbox they've bought Bethesda. I mean, they bought ZeniMax, which is their parent company, but realistically, Xbox has bought Bethesda. So that means Fallout, Doom, Elder Scrolls, and also smaller stuff like Wolfenstein, Dishonored, potential, well, I guess Starfield in the future, and many other things. Who knows what other stuff they're going to come up with. Now we know that Deathloop and Ghostwire are still going to keep their commitments to Sony. That part is going to be fine. And we have gotten comments directly from Phil Spencer that Bethesda games will be tailored for PC and Xbox, but may go to other consoles on a case by case basis. So, does it mean Elder Scrolls 6, whatever it ends up being called, or Fallout 5, or the next Doom, or the next Wolfenstein, the next Dishonored? You get the idea. Does that mean any of them are going to come to PlayStation? I mean, that maybe. They might. I mean, I wouldn't say right at launch. If I was a betting man, I'd say Elder Scrolls 6 is like a 6-month exclusive to Xbox, maybe even longer than that. And then they'll pop it out to other consoles because, you can't not make that money. You just can't do that. There's no way. Like, I originally went, oh shit, they're going to keep these exclusive. And then I stopped and went, Elder Scrolls is one of the biggest money generating games that you could possibly have out on the market, especially when Elder Scrolls 6 finally comes out. I mean, Skyrim is, whether you think it's a 10 out of 10 game or not, is a legendary game, just in the basis of how widespread it's become and how it's been basically put on every freaking device that's ever been made. There was a great meme that I did see, though, that said the whole reason that Xbox bought up Bethesda so Todd Howard would stop porting Skyrim to other devices. But either way, I don't think they would do something as foolish as keeping a massive number of consumers, especially if the PS5 sells remotely as well as the PS4 has. I don't think you alienate that customer base when you could make so much money off of your game sales that way. So, do I think it means launch day? No, I don't think it'll be launch day. I think they time exclusive that stuff. But overall, the bigger question really does become, what does Sony do in this? Because, I mean, obviously, this is a gigantic move for Xbox. Especially with Game Pass being what it is. We already know the EA Play, or I guess EA Access now, I think it's called, is getting moved over to Game Pass for no extra charge. So that's a big chunk of games. And now Bethesda is part of that lineup. That is a large chunk of games to be on Game Pass. And if you are an Xbox or a PC user, that is a hell of a library that you're getting for a small monthly fee. That's freaking amazing. And as a guy who just recently got a gaming PC, yeah, that's pretty sweet. I'm pretty happy about that. As much as I may have EA and Bethesda on boycotts right now for different reasons, it doesn't really count if it's on Game Pass because I was already paying for it anyway. Now I can play a game like Fallen Order or a game like Doom Eternal or whatever else, not have to spend any extra money. So, as a customer, if you are either planning on owning a Series S or a Series X, or you already have a gaming PC and all you need to do is spend that $15 for Game Pass, ooh, that's some great news right there. It's a lot of extra stuff you're getting and not having to spend the big amount of money on, especially now that we know that console releases are going to start being $70. So, yeah, this is a pretty big deal. So, again, what does that mean for Sony? And my initial reaction to this was, I thought, oh crap, Sony's going to have to respond to that. That's a huge developer, like, gone, essentially, or presumably if it's exclusive. If it's not, then maybe it doesn't make that much of a difference in the long run. The fact that Phil Spencer already came out and said that it could be on a case-by-case basis for these games, whether or not they go to other consoles, says that, hey, we're pretty open to still putting them on other devices because, we're not afraid of making extra money. Like, we're not that stupid. Now, Sony, on the other hand, they still have to look at this and take this seriously because what if it's away? What if it's taken away from them? What if Elder Scrolls, Fallout, and all those franchises are taken from them? They can't have them on their system anymore. That'd be a hell of a blow. So what do you do in response to that? Do you just take it? I mean, Sony could. They certainly still have the exclusives in their favor, as far as I'm concerned. But when it comes to the long game, do they stand pat? Do you take that risk and stand pat? Because what if Xbox isn't done? What if they're also talking with somebody else? What if they're trying to take more away? If I'm Sony, I start thinking ahead, being like, shit, okay. What is there that we can grab? And if there is anything that we can grab, what would be that best option? Well, if it's Sony, if we're talking PlayStation here, I mean, their core is still Japanese. So it would make sense then to go after Japanese companies. Because not only that, Japanese companies are going to be more likely to stick with other Japanese companies and not go to Microsoft, which Xbox is as good as the consoles might be. They don't sell very well in Japan, generally speaking, because Japan really likes their homegrown stuff. So if I'm Sony and I have to respond, like let's just hypothetically say they have to purchase something and take that away from Microsoft. Let's assume crazy scenario that Xbox is deciding, you know what, no Bethesda games are ever going to be released on PlayStation ever again. Sony, in return, has to be like, okay, what can we take away? There are two options I would think of immediately, and two of them that would be pretty effective. And both of them are Japanese-based. Obviously, both are starting to have more Western roots, but they're still based in Japan. The first one that comes to mind is Square Enix. And that would be a really big one, because not only does it keep the JRPG market firmly on Sony, but not to mention all the other side games that have been coming out in the Western portion of what Square Enix does, that being like Tomb Raider and Marvel's Avengers and stuff like that. That would be a very interesting pickup. And again, like all of these are hypothetical. I don't have any idea if any of these companies would even be open to being purchased like that, or if even Sony has an idea of even responding. I don't even know if they really care at this point. Especially if, there's still a chance at this point that some of these games are still going to be released on their console at some point. And I don't think they're that afraid to begin with. At least not at this point. We'll see, obviously, when the sales numbers come out in the first, 6 months of this generation. And then we'll get a better idea of things. But Square would be interesting, because, again, you're taking Final Fantasy away, Kingdom Hearts, you're getting all the Western stuff like Tomb Raider and Just Cause and many, many more that I'm just not thinking off the top of my head. The other one that would come to mind as well would be Capcom. And Capcom would be a hell of a pickup now because Capcom is hitting their stride. You got Monster Hunter doing the best it's ever done. Resident Evil is firing on all cylinders. Like, there is a lot that you could do by taking a hold of one of those companies. Now, again, would they? Nah, I don't know. I don't know if either of those companies would be open to it. Those are the two that come to mind. There are smaller ones out there. Like, you could go after Bandai Namco. You could go after Atlas. Like, there are definitely some Japanese companies that would work into that favor. But, I mean, the two big ones that would be kind of equivalent to what Square and Capcom are pretty much equivalent to what Bethesda would be, essentially. So, I don't know if this would be the path. And I kind of don't think it is. When I first reacted to it, I'm like, oh shit, this could be a real console war now. And now I'm kind of loosening up a little bit. Now I'm like, it's probably not that big a deal. I don't think they would be that foolish to just suddenly start throwing money everywhere just because, they feel like somebody might take something, I don't think it would get to that point. But, what are the chances, right? You never know. Hypothetically speaking, the door's always open, and there's always... I mean, who thought this was going to happen? Like, who really thought that Bethesda was going to get sold? Bethesda's been a staple at E3 forever now. Like, the figures like they were just going to be another big company just going around just flaunting all the games they got, and now here they are. a property of a major company. I mean, there's other big companies that could be taken, but I mean, EA certainly isn't going to do shit. Take-Two isn't certainly going to do shit. That's why I kind of went the Japanese route, because it kind of made sense. I mean, if you were talking about big companies, big developers, it's got to be like Square and Capcom as the two like immediate fits, right? But otherwise, I just hope that this doesn't turn into anything more than just Xbox trying to beef up their library when they know that they don't have that much. I don't want this to turn into a monopolized industry, you know? I don't want basically two consoles to have like 75% of like the major developers. I don't want it to get that far. I mean, it's bad enough that EA has taken a lot of companies from us that were doing really well and have then turned them into something that they never should have been. Cough, cough, BioWare, cough, 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 fuck me, cough. You know. Nintendo's doing their own thing pretty much now. So, I mean, it's starting to dwindle. Like, now with Bethesda out of the equation, that's one other major developer, like, completely out, or publisher, I should say. Because now, you got EA, you got Ubisoft, you got Xbox, and you got PlayStation, you got Nintendo, and then really, you got Square, who sometimes does stuff at E3, but they're usually, like, these really boring fucking, like, almost like meetings. It's like a business meeting half the time. So we're starting to run out. And like any other industry, I don't want things to turn into you have two choices. I don't want it to be like that. Because as soon as the choices get limited, the less innovation that happens. That's why the indie scene just keeps getting better. It's because so much of the AAA industry is getting closer and closer together into one mishmash. That's why companies like CD Projekt Red can do so well. Because again, it's doing something different and they're not under the shackles of what the AAA industry tends to be, especially now here in 2020. So, as a customer, this is great news. But as someone who is thinking a little bit beyond that, beyond just being a consumer, you always wonder. You always wonder what the next step is, because some people are going to sit there and look at this news story and think, okay, well, that's it. It's all done now. Every time that we think that something's done, there's always a next step. You know, every time we think in any industry that, oh, this is as bad as it's going to get, well, it gets worse. It always gets worse. Greed is what it is. And eventually, that's why we see that stat that's like 9 companies own like stupid amounts of, like a stupid high percentage of all the businesses, really. So I hope it doesn't get that far. I don't think we're going to get to that point for a little bit, but it's just steps like these that make me think, shit, we might actually be closing in on something that I didn't fathom existing for quite some time. But again, as a consumer, I mean, it's pretty cool now. As somebody who has a gaming PC and has Game Pass, like, I'm okay with it from that perspective. I just hope that we don't see something like this in the next couple of years. That just means more customers have to make a very tough decision if they want to play a certain kind of game, or if the certain franchise. Choices are usually good, except when you limit them.